Hello, I'm Stefan Nijhuis, full professor of landscape-based urbanism at TU Delft. Today I introduce landscape logic, a method of designing urban and regional environments by deeply understanding the landscape's natural and socio-cultural processes. This approach allows us to make informed decisions for future-proof urban development. Urbanization, biodiversity loss, inequality and climate change are key challenges of this century. By 2050, two-thirds of the world's population will live in cities, necessitating extensive urban expansion. This growth threatens vulnerable natural areas that are crucial for our survival. Since 1970, biodiversity has declined by 68%, primarily due to land use changes. Critical ecosystems like the Atlantic rainforest and global wetlands are rapidly disappearing, compromising essential services like flood protection, CO2 sequestration, and freshwater supply. Nature-based solutions can help to address societal challenges. Examples include restoring Indonesian mangroves that mitigate sea level rise, while urban agriculture in Havana supports food security and climate resilience. Such green infrastructure benefits both the environment and human well-being. To combat urbanization's negative impacts, we must prioritize the biosphere as the foundation for urban development. The wedding cake model, with the sustainability goals, puts nature and people first and highlights the need to rethink urban planning and train future generations to prioritize landscape and urbanization. But what is landscape? Landscape is shaped by both natural and human factors. It's not just green, but also a cultural artifact. The Dutch polder landscape exemplifies how human activity has historically shaped the environment. Landscapes represent ecological, aesthetic, social and economic values. Incorporating landscape solutions often proves cost-effective and beneficial, as supported by various studies. Landscapes evoke strong emotions and memories. They inspire artists and resonate deeply with our sense of place and identity. People are increasingly concerned about landscapes, particularly in urban areas where the landscape is often unconsciously seen as a background. Ignoring landscape in, for instance, climate change and energy transition discussions leads to landscape blindness, where the ecological and cultural diversity of landscape is neglected. This uniformity harms biodiversity and weakens ecosystems. It is therefore high time to put landscape center stage again in spatial planning and policies, and to use landscape logic to create an attractive living environment for people and nature. Landscape connects people, teams and scales and can be used as a perspective for urban development, as will be explained further on. Alexander von Humboldt pioneered landscape logic, identifying relationships between climate, soil, vegetation and human activity. His approach of observing, analyzing and visualizing landscapes remains foundational. He discovered relationships and connections between climate and plants, people and their natural environment. And if we analyze his work, he developed a landscape logic that is based on a threefold cognitive scheme. Landscape logic started with an impression of the landscape, the first. Then comes insight through analysis, the second, through which the coherence in the landscape systems become clear, the third. We recognize landscape logic in their interaction between relief, soil and water. This becomes clear when we look at the so-called red-blue maps made by von Freytag-Drabbe in the period 1945-1952. He made the landscape logic visible by coloring the wetter parts of the landscape blue and the drier parts red in times of inadequate water management. Also, vegetation patterns reflect underlying environmental factors. Understanding these patterns help us grasp landscape dynamics. Landscapes are dynamic systems. shaped by natural processes like water flow and sedimentation, highlighting their constant evolution. Traditional architecture often reflects the natural environment, using local materials and sustainable practices, offering lessons for modern urban planning. Geodiversity and climate influence architecture and urban planning, affecting material choice, building orientation, and agricultural practices. Based on their landscape logic, landscape can be divided into different landscape types, as first mapped in the Netherlands by Professor Bijhouwer. For him, landscape types were a spatial expression of various ecological and social-cultural factors. Professor Frans Maas explored how building patterns can respond to landscape character, promoting a landscape-based approach to urban development. However, they were not the first. Historical figures like geologist John Wesley Powell and landscape architect Warren Manning advocated for landscape-based urban planning, emphasizing the need for research and application to prioritize landscape in spatial development. For example, Powell proposed a watershed-based spatial planning in the western United States in 1890. Landscape-based urbanism is a landscape-based design approach for sustainable built environments. The core of the approach consists of designing with nature, people, and history. It's a specialization within landscape architecture that focuses on the understanding and conceptualization and designing urban environments in harmony with nature and the landscape. It aims to acquire knowledge of landscape logic as the basis for spatial planning and design. In this context, knowledge production is context-driven, solution-oriented, and inter- and transdisciplinary, so in partnership with other disciplines and stakeholders. It also focuses on spatial design to explore and visualize imaginable and desirable futures, designing to build a better future, not only for humans but also for the other species we share this planet with. This design approach avoids rigid planning, focusing instead on adapting to changes and put nature and people at the center. There are 4 perspectives on using design in landscape-based urbanism. In the first place, there's the focus on designing with nature. Designing with nature involves harnessing natural processes, as seen in the Marker Wadden project, where natural conditions were created to foster a self-sufficient settlement. The second perspective is designing for people. This implies creating livable, healthy environments that include accessible green spaces. Parks like Vondelpark in Amsterdam are not just beautiful, they serve as vital social infrastructures where people can connect, fostering strong communities and enhancing social bonds. The third perspective is designing with history, which involves exploring and engaging with the landscape's past, like a palimpsest, a reused piece of parchment with traces of old text still visible. The landscape is a layered composition where our history can be read. This historical value often deserves preservation. However, there are times that it is about adding a new layer, as has been done effectively in this example, to raise awareness of specific events. By studying history, we can also draw lessons that inform landscape-conscious urban development. The fourth and final design perspective is about architecture of space, the landscape as a 3-dimensional construction. Creating landscapes that are visually and experientially engaging, considering scale, movement, and orientation to enhance the experience on eye level. In order to further shape these 4 angles, or perspectives, I want to focus on the development of a number of practice-oriented methods for design and research and their applications. My first area of attention is the advancement of methods for understanding landscape logic. This involves breaking down the landscape into various layers to uncover the relationships between natural and cultural systems, as well as the interaction among physical space, people, and governance. One example of this layered approach examines the dynamics of change, exploring how human interventions, such as water management, have influenced both nature and urban development. This knowledge can also be applied in regional design, which is a second area of focus in landscape-based urbanism. Regional design is a long-term strategy aimed at protecting, creating, and regenerating coherent, vibrant landscape systems that prioritize biodiversity, cultural history, and multifunctionality. It's akin to gardening on a regional scale. These projects offer valuable lessons for implementation, revealing challenges related to financing, policy, and practical execution. By examining these experiences, we can identify what works and what doesn't. Additionally, we can explore how design principles for water safety, biodiversity, social inclusion, and healthy public spaces can be translated into spatial compositions. The focus is on integrated, sustainable, and multifunctional solutions. In the third focus area, it's further explored how metropolitan parks can function as connected nature networks that strengthen regional cohesion and guide sustainable urbanization, hereby forming resilient and adaptive spatial frameworks, robust landscape structures for the coherent development of a region, and at the same time setting the scene for local projects. Landscape-based strategies prioritize landscape elements in urban development, as demonstrated in the project on the screen, where landscape guided the urban layout. If we want to steer urbanization in the right direction, now and in the future, we have to invest in future generations by teaching them to love the landscape and giving them tools for landscape-conscious research and design, and therefore educating future professionals in landscape logic is crucial for fostering sustainable urban development globally. Thank you for your attention.